All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Or actually, it's evening here in the Philippines right now. But technically, this webinar is set for 2 to 3 p.m. Central European Time. So, wherever you are in the world right now, good day. So, welcome to the webinar titled A Marathon, Not a Sprint, Remaining Positive, Persevering, Handling Failure, and Starting Over. So we will just wait for a few minutes, maybe about 5 minutes, because positive, persevering, handling failure. Sorry, because we're still waiting for the rest of the participants to maybe join the talk today. So yeah, just sit tight, maybe for a few minutes. So while we're waiting, perhaps um, the people who are tuned in right now can perhaps write down on the chat. As you can see there on YouTube, there is a chat option on the right side. And perhaps you can chat uh, your name and which country you are watching from at the moment. And maybe not just your countries, but perhaps what type of activism you're currently doing in your communities. Right. Okay, it's already about 5 minutes in, so perhaps you can now begin. All right, so hello everyone again. So I'm Colleen Caryl Leslie Torres, and I will be the host of the webinar today. Okay, so As mentioned earlier, I'm just going to repeat the title of this talk. Now, this seminar will be about staying positive, staying positive in our journeys, being development workers out in the field. How do we actually remain upbeat amidst all the difficulties that occur? Aside from that, we will also discuss about perseverance and staying true to our missions, how to get by in our everyday lives, doing the work that we do in change making. In addition, we shall also discuss about handling failure, which I think is an experience that everyone passes through in life, professionally and personally. And I think that it is a topic that everyone can resonate with. So we shall also discuss about how to make the most out of our experiences on failure. And lastly, we shall also discuss about starting over. Now, with regards to starting over, of course, what would follow after undergoing failure is a new beginning, right? So how do we actually do a better job do a better job with regards to when we are given a second chance? So let's begin. I am just going to share my screen at this point. All right, so that's the screen. I hope everyone can see it. Okay. All right, so a big thank you to Global Changemakers for the opportunity to go about with this webinar. All right, so let's start, everyone. Now, this is our talk titled A Marathon, Not a Sprint. Now, this talk is organized by Global Changemakers. Global Changemakers is an international network of young activists, volunteers, and social entrepreneurs. Today is September 27, and this webinar will run for about an hour. So, more about me. Now, I am Colleen Caryl Torres. You can call me Colleen. I am actually also part of Global Changemakers, having attended the Global Youth Summit 2011 in the UK. That was about 7 years ago. I'm from the Philippines. I'm Filipino, and currently I'm 25 years old. I was a candidate for valedictorian, and I finished a degree in international studies as cum laude from Xavier University Ateneo de Cagayan in Cagayan de Oro City in the Philippines. Currently, I'm taking my master's in development leadership, also in Xavier University, and I am now writing a paper on informal settlers and poverty alleviation, which is the issue area that I am currently doing most of my development work on. I am the founder of Lambo. Lambo is a media for development organization that aims to create media to empower the poor. Now, with regards to the topic, positivity, failure, and new beginnings, I have had my share of triumphant and melancholic moments in life, and I do have experience in staying optimistic, what to do when things don't go as well as planned, and starting over in life in my endeavors as a change maker. Therefore, I think I can really speak about the topic on optimism and failure. Now, you might wonder, why did we name this talk after a marathon? Now, there is a famous saying, if we go to the last point here, a marathon, not a sprint. Now, basically, this saying, a marathon, life is a marathon, not a sprint, basically says that our journeys are actually long. It's not something that happens overnight. Doing the work that we do with the poor, with the many injustices in the world today, bringing about empowerment to young people, working on LGBT rights, uh, working on for the environment, tackling climate change. All of these things are not issues that can be solved in a blink of an eye, you know. So considering that, I believe that we should look at our journeys as a whole. That it is actually more about it's more about the whole journey itself, rather than just something that we have to hasten because we need to be successful right now. No, it's actually something that involves falling down sometimes. Sometimes you trip. Sometimes you have to pick yourself back up. And that's why we named this a marathon, not a sprint. So it's not easy being a global change maker. GCM stands for Global Change Maker. It's really hard to stay positive amid such negativity. This is something a lot of people can relate to. And how can we make an impact, our legacy, or our difference, or the difference that we want to make? Okay, so the outline for this talk will be this outline that we have here right now. So this webinar is divided into two parts. The first part is about positivity and perseverance, which are the first 2 points that were in our main poster, positivity and perseverance. And the second point is about handling failure and starting over. Okay, let's start with the first point, positivity and perseverance. Remaining optimistic in your change-making endeavors. All right. First and foremost, what really is positivity? So, okay, we want to be upbeat. We want to be optimistic throughout our journeys. But what really is positivity? Now, positivity, according to Beth Cabrera, who is a well-known inspirational speaker, positivity is the frequent experience of pleasant emotions. Pleasant emotions may be love, contentment. So it's the frequent experience of pleasant emotions. Okay, according to James Clear of the Huffington Post, positive thoughts can actually create real value in your life. Have you ever heard of a well-known leader in the world who is not positive, who is actually gloomy? I don't think so. I believe that most of the leaders that we have are actually people who believe in all the possibilities that could happen. Let's say, for example, top of my head is Elon Musk. Now, Elon Musk is a businessman, a South African businessman actually, and he's the owner of SpaceX, I believe. And I believe that the vision that he has actually arises from being positive about the possibilities in the world. So being positive really can actually create real value in your life. And optimistic emotions broaden your sense of possibility. Okay, now you cannot change society if you are negative. Now, it's really essential for people to stay upbeat with what they're doing. Not really people, but change makers. Because the only way that we can really create the difference that we want in the communities that we serve is if we ourselves are optimistic about what could happen with the people that we work with. Now, sometimes it's hard to believe that dreams do come true, according to Ines Bautista of Academy Magazine, especially during those days especially during those days when everything just seems very hopeless. Sometimes it is hard to believe, and of course, with all the negativity, people maybe who will tell you that you can't do it, But believe me when I say it is, of course, possible. If you look at the world, at the universe, even, all how could such wonderful things in life occur? Because life is much more than the gloom, you know. Life is amazing. It is a gift, and there are ways to go beyond the negativity. Okay. Now you can only change society if you're a big ball of positivity. Now, one of the biggest things I've learned really being a change maker is that a development worker should make it a priority to look for inspiration, fuel your passion, and remind yourselves why you're doing what your projects. Okay, I'd like to perhaps give a. I'm just going to go back to my screen. All right. So I'm just going to give an experience of mine that really made me realize how important uh, make how important prioritizing your passions are. Well, about 6 years ago, I was organizing a project called Action Club with my fellow global change makers. Now, Action Club was actually a GAP, a global action project, which aimed to empower young people to get active in the community. And long story short, Action Club was a really hard project for me at that time. I was actually the country head in the Philippines, and I had to really go about with organizing activities that time that were really amazing activities. But at that time, I believe I was still rather immature at that time. I'm not really sure that immature is the word, but I was not really adept in handling difficult challenges. I was 19 at that time. I was in my final year in college. I there were times when even though my work was actually great, but in myself, I thought that I wasn't really doing that well with my work. I thought that, oh my gosh, what must my team think of me? I'm not really perfect, and I didn't really organize the activity the way they expected it to be. They must think I'm horrible, things like that. Sometimes we are our own worst critics. And I realized there were times when I really wanted to give up. I'm really sorry to say this, but I love Action Club. Really, Action Club was one of the reasons why I am who I am today. Really, but that was what I was experiencing at that time, actually. And then what I learned about looking back now, when I was about a few years later, I realized that if only I just made an effort to actually be optimistic about the experiences that I had, actually look for inspiration. It's actually very important to look up inspiration every day, especially if you are a leader. I know that other leaders might know this already as well, that we should actually make it a priority to read books that inspire us, to go to websites that are inspirational. Now, I'm going to share at this point some materials or some books or films. Okay, now we're going on YouTube and Yes Magazine. Now, this is yesmagazine.org. It's actually a website and a magazine, an actual magazine publication for people building a better world. I also found Yes Magazine through Global Changemakers, and Yes Magazine is actually one of my go-to websites whenever I want to find inspiration about anything under the sun. Currently, I really like their website about mental health. because it really talks about issues that are currently happening in the world. So that's Yes Magazine, yesmagazine.org. Another thing that really inspires me is the film Tomorrowland. Now, I don't think there is audio here, but I'm just going to maybe put a commentary. This is a short clip from YouTube about Tomorrowland. Now, Tomorrowland is a film. It's a film, a U.S. film, uh, released in 2015. And Tomorrowland is actually a movie about a girl named Casey. Now, Casey is a young person who really believes that there are solutions to the complex problems in society. And this is a scene of Casey touching a pin that transports her to another dimension called Tomorrowland. And this is Tomorrowland. Now, one of the great things that I really like about this movie is that this is actually a utopian movie in a way, utopian dystopian, meaning it talks about the perfect society, which I think is not really. I think that hasn't really happened yet. There's no such thing as a perfect society. But one of the things that I like about Tomorrowland basically is that it shows such a great place, and I know that it may sound uh, really idealistic, but idealism aside, I think idealism is quite important in the world. And my ideal society would be uh, a place like this. You know, whenever, believe it or not, in my whenever I visualize what I want to do in society, I'm currently working actually on poverty alleviation. My dream is really to create a Philippines. I'm from the Philippines, so create a Philippines that is like this. So that's how big my dream is. That I want my country to be this developed. And people might tell you that you're crazy for dreaming such a huge thing, but this is what fuels me. This is what fuels me in my day-to-day life, that I know it's possible. So I'm going to stop the video now, and I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Now we're here now. So yes, make it a priority to look for inspiration. Now I left off with a topic on looking for inspiration. You know, when I was back in Action Club, that's really one of the bigger things that I learned, that a change maker, a leader should wake up in the morning and open a book that really makes them feel hopeful about the world, hopeful about their work, and look for inspiration. You fuel your passion and remind yourself why you're doing your projects. Now, okay, so I'm just going to run through some things that I came up with for this talk on how to remain upbeat in your change-making endeavors. I divided it according to the following sectors. I'm just going to run through this one by one. So, how to remain upbeat physically. Why physically? Because, of course, since we are actually dealing with people, personally, we're going to say self. We are dealing with ourselves. The self is a body, right? So our bodies are also part of this self that we are dealing with. And how can we become positive when our bodies ourselves are imbalanced? There is sometimes such a thing as biological and I think that's called neurochemical imbalance in the body, because the brain is I'm talking about the brain because emotions, joy, positivity are all feelings that are regulated by our brain. And if we do not really take care of our bodies, if we have that sort of imbalance, then that can really affect our productivity as leaders. I I believe this is rather scientific, everything here. So research has shown that biological imbalance has an effect on a person's productivity, and we cannot afford to let uh, let's our let our let that imbalance affect our work in development. So I think that remaining upbeat consists of an aspect of physicality, taking care of ourselves. So first things first, maybe we'll just we'll just skip to letter B because I'm already talking about bodies. Okay, so eat happiness-inducing food. So I'm just going to give a quick story, so because we only have an hour. But if I were to reiterate this point, there was also a time when I also went through. Actually, it was recently, about 2 months ago. I did feel a sort of a mood shift in me because I started to take sort of a supplement, food supplement, for which was important to my health. And I saw that one of the side effects of the food supplement was really bad mood swings. So I was realizing or observing that it was affecting how I felt. Whenever I woke up in the morning, I just didn't really want to. I just was feeling rather down. So I looked up the food supplement, and I realized that I needed to change my diet. I needed to change my my the amount of physical activity that I did. So what I did was I started to eat B complex rich food as well as more fiber, because fiber actually cleanses out our bodies, you know. So I started to eat more fiber, oatmeal, what else? Bread, oat bread, and meat such as chicken, fish, and I was very particular with what I ate. And I saw that that really helped how I felt. In maybe a matter of 3 days, about 3 days of changing what I ate, I was feeling really happy already. So, and also not just that, but I increased my exercise, the amount of exercise I had. I actually don't really have that much time to exercise. So what I typically do is, instead of riding a tricycle, I sometimes just take the commute, the public transport. Instead of riding a tricycle, I just walk the whole way, maybe about 2 kilometers in a day, maybe, and then I take the stairs. So I really increase the amount of physical activity that I do. Also, avoid vices like smoking and excessive drinking, because these really affect a person's health and also how they feel. And let's just go to letter A here, self-care. So with physicality, it's best not to burden ourselves too much if we feel like we're already overwhelmed with work. Being change makers, we do have a tendency to bite, quote unquote, bite more than we chew. I myself am guilty of this. But whenever you feel overwhelmed, it's important to just rest. You know, do something you love, and even wearing clothing that makes you feel good also affects how you feel about yourself. Fashion is really not really important, but fashion is really helpful in terms of making yourself feel better in a way. Yes. Okay, let's now go to how to remain upbeat emotionally and mentally. Okay, listen to empowering music. I think that everyone has their own playlists in life. So I think one of the fastest ways, and also this is based on research, one of the fastest ways to change how you feel is to listen to music that really resonates with you at that certain moment. Next, positivity is a choice. Okay, to emphasize on this point, I also learned that sometimes how we think we are doing at work is whether that be positive or not that positive, how we think we are doing at work is actually a choice. Like, if you think that you even though you did very well, but sometimes we have a tendency to think, oh, I didn't really do that as much as I could have. But along the lines, then you meet your teammates who actually tell you that you were actually doing that well, but you yourself, you didn't think you were doing that well. So if only you just chose to think, be more confident about your work, in short. If only you were more confident about how you did in your work, then that would have been, that would have changed that would have cost or saved you, that would have saved you so much negative thinking about yourself. So positivity is actually a choice. So right now I already tell myself that, okay, right now I decide that I am actually great at what I do. So I'm a great leader. I am compassionate. I care about others, and it's better actually if you focus on the things that you're good at. So it's a choice. Next, intellectual. I just labeled it as intellectual, but it's really about mindset. This is how to set a mindset of being optimistic. So we have here persistent imagery. Persistent imagery is about keeping your goals ahead of your, always focusing on your goals. So just like what I showed earlier, the video about Tomorrowland. So that's actually one of my ways of persistent imagery. Like I always remember that that's my goal. That's the vision that I'm working towards. So yes, being focused. So you can even put cork boards in your room that remind you of what your goals are. Next, poetry, movies, and film. I already mentioned these. And readings on hope and temperance. More about that later. Make an effort to fill yourself with whatever inspires you. I think I already mentioned those. Other inspiring materials or things that are very, very very inspiring are the UN Sustainable Development Goals. If you search through the UN's campaign on the Sustainable Development Goals 2030, their vision for the world, for the future of the world, is actually really optimistic, and it makes you be one with the world in achieving those goals. So I can also suggest for changemakers to look up on that to inspire them in their day-to-day lives, or not lives, but in their day-to-day dealings and work in change making. And then reading books as well on any issue that you're doing, whether that be just like the issues I mentioned earlier, climate change, poverty reduction, LGBTQ rights, and other issues. Read books about those issues. Now, one of the books that I like to read is Lungsod is Water, which is actually here with me right now. All right, next. Own your project and hope. So another main point is hope, Okay, how can you hope in a world that sometimes is hopeless? Well, sometimes it does happen to the best of us that the world would be devoid of any happiness. But one of the best sources that I have had so far about hope says that, what is hope really? Hope responds to the aspiration to happiness. So when we say aspiration to happiness, we aspire to be happy. So if you look at, let's say, think about a really hopeless situation you have dealt with in your change-making careers. Maybe one thing that I would like to suggest, I don't really mean to offend any sector about this, but I look at the dignity of the poor, and the poor is really a sector that we all have had our own experiences with poverty, but considering the dignity of the poor, there are moments when we wonder, is it still possible to address poverty, seeing that it is very difficult to change the mindsets of people in informal settlements. But if we look at these dignified individuals, the poor, we have to tell ourselves that we aspire for happiness for these people. That hope is actually equated to the aspiration to happiness. We want these places to be happy. We want our country, our nation, these developing countries that we have, either that whether that be in Africa, in South Asia, in South America, whether that be in Europe or wherever it is in the world, we aspire for these communities to be happy, and that is hope. That it is choosing happiness and wanting happiness, because that desire for happiness is actually planted in each and every person's hearts. And it is actually one of the, I think, according to philosophy, I learned this in college, people aspire to be happy. So that is hope. A hope takes up the hopes that inspire men's activities. Hope keeps man from discouragement. That whether, no matter how hard things are, but we do not get discouraged because we have hope. Hope sustains him or sustains a person during times of abandonment. It opens up his heart in expectation, and hoping against hope, he believed. So it's also about faith, about believing that our work will make a difference. Don't give up, you are the future. This is also one of the quotes from Tomorrowland, that look for the people who didn't give up, because they are the future. And put some passion into it. All right. Now, with regards to how to remain upbeat socially, share to your friends and family, because one of the needs of a person is really emotional support. So a person has to share to your friends about anything that you struggle with. Share it with your family. Realize that there are good people in the world, but there are also opportunistic individuals. So try to be more wise, or be wiser when it comes to our relations with others. And also, one of the things that I've learned is the Joe Harris window. Why? Because long story short, there are some things that you know about yourself. There are some things that others know about yourself that you both know. There are other things that others know about you that you don't know. And there are also some things that you don't know and others don't know about you. So that is the Joe Harris window. Sometimes conflict happen because people aren't as understanding. Sometimes conflict happen because we think that we know something that others, or maybe our teammates, our family, don't know about ourselves. That's why there's conflict, because you don't understand each other. So these things in relation to positivity, sometimes we should be more understanding, because more often than not, the things that really bring us down are people. Still, it's people that who are the ones who bring us down. So if we just keep in mind that there are things that I know that my teammates don't know, that my office mates don't know, then we become more understanding about each other, and that will make our dealings with each other uh, more ironed out. Right. Last but not the least, spirituality. Now, I also believe that people are also are not just bodies, no, but we also have souls. Of course, that I'm saying that as if, okay, people have souls, but we should also nurture our spirituality. I know that many people turn to their faith whenever things aren't going as well as it is. Whatever religion you believe in, spirituality is also a journey. It's also a marathon in itself. So whenever you are experiencing a difficult time, do whichever, and if you want to, if not really if you want to, but one of the things that you can also do is turn towards your faith. Do whichever gives you the most peace and guidance, either praying, doing a pilgrimage, visiting a holy place, or attending a religious service. Okay, now let's talk about perseverance, which is the second point of this talk. Now, perseverance really boils down to discipline. So one of the things I wrote down here is discipline. Well, maybe millennials would be able to relate to this, rather than going on Facebook or Instagram. This maybe one way. One way to look at discipline is choosing to prepare for your project instead of going online or doing other things. Or discipline is sacrifice, basically. If we persevere, we keep in mind that the only way we can reach our goals is if we are disciplined enough to reject things that will distract us from our objectives. And the story of Mr. Henry Binahon, Filipino scientist and owner of Binahon Agroforestry Farm in Lantapan, Bukidnon, this has a D, Bukidnon, Philippines. You could look up Mr. Henry Binahon. He's actually a well-known businessman, and he also has tremendous experience with discipline and perseverance. Okay, now with regards to, we're going to go through the second part of the talk quite faster than the rest of the part of the talk because of the time. We only have maybe about 10 minutes left of the talk. Okay. Now, the second part of this webinar is about handling failure, and starting over is something that everyone may have been going through, or everyone has gone through in life. Great. Starting over when you trip. Now, according to Adam Sisinski, in his article, Helpful Ideas for Starting Over Again When Adversity Strikes, sooner or later you will find yourself in a situation where everything you have worked for suddenly falls apart and you are forced to start over again. Now, what is starting over and what is failure? Now, the truth is, every day is a new start. According to Russell C. Smith and Michael Foster of Psychology Today. So, okay. Another experience that I would like to maybe share is I'm just going to stop sharing the screen for a moment and just go back to the camera. All right. Now, with regards to the topic, handling failure, and every day is a new start. Now, there was a recent experience that I had with Lambo. Lambo is the organization that I founded. And quite frankly, just this week, actually, just this Monday, I rather made a huge decision about the organization. There was a realignment that happened in our project. And to make things, to go straight to the point, I made a huge decision about the project, and that involved starting over. And one of the people that I really ran towards was my father. And I told my father that, Dad, I don't really want to be a person who is known to just continually start over, not getting things done. I don't want my reputation to boil down to being a person who never gets anything. Now, I'm not saying that I never get anything towards the finish line, but let's just say that some projects go towards a different direction. So I told my father that I didn't want to be that type of person. I didn't want other people to think that I was always starting over. And one of the things that my dad really told me was that every day is a new start. Now, if I may use my father's analogy, he said that life is like a book. Now, I'm gonna have an actual book here. Life is like a book, and This book contains the story of your life, and you are the only person who holds the pen towards writing that story, typically. And so, one of the interesting things that my dad said is that other people cannot write your story. You are the only one who can decide what goes in there based on your decisions in life, the things that you learn, the people that you encounter. You will always have a choice on how to react, whether good things happen or not. You always have a choice on how to. Sorry, I'm scratching my nose. Sorry. You always have a choice in how to react, basically. So, uh, and then I told and then that's where it really doesn't matter what other people will think about you if you're every day is a new start. So, okay, if you decide that today I'm going to be a better person, I failed, but today I'm going to do better. I'm going to be kinder to others. I'm going to work harder. Eventually, at the end of your book, you will hopefully you will reach your goals. So that is really one of the things that I learned, that every day is a new start, and that you should always be yes, every day is a new start. So I'm going to share my screen again, and let's just resume. Okay, we only have a few minutes left. We still have time for question and answer. So I'm just going to run through the PowerPoint on what is start on how to get back on your feet. So just a quick run through. What is failure? Now, a simple definition of failure, according to Random Bronze, is that it's an act or instance of failing or proving unsuccessful or lack of success. Okay, so how to get back on your feet? Do a spiritual reflection, perhaps. All right. Second, there's a reason why failures happen. Fully accept that bad things happen to the best of people. However, judging these events and circumstances too early hinders you from seeing the true value of these events beyond the present moment. Adversity can in many ways become a humble blessing and a wonderful opportunity for you to turn over a new leaf and create a life for yourself that you never fathomed, imagined, or expected. Failures will help you become who you are. So we have all had our share of failures in life, but there are moments when you wouldn't be the person you are now if you didn't go through that. And sometimes the best things in our lives happen after a fall. So failures will help you become who you are. So how to get back on your feet? Basically, just think of your experiences as challenges that could very well become your most wondrous blessings. Throw yourself into a creative project as well. Now, to get back on your feet, maybe it would be good for you to maybe start a photography project if that helps you, or with regards to your project, maybe do stuff, maybe something that interests you. Travel is also a good way to pick pieces up because it opens up your world. Get help as well. This is very important, especially for people who are really going through depression or anxiety. Sometimes those problems seem like impossible things to get over. But believe me when I say that there are people out there who are willing to help you without any payment at all. There's an local organization here in Cagayan City called I Will Serve Foundation, who has really helped a lot of people with regards to drug abuse and disorders. So get help whenever you need it, because there are always people out there who are willing to give a helping hand. Forgive yourself and others, of course. no matter how hurtful your experiences are with your teammates, with your bosses, no matter how embarrassing things happen or things happen between you in your office, but it comes with forgiveness, that you forgive yourself first and foremost for the mistakes you've had, because there are limitations, that we have limitations, and forgive others. Failures might be opportunities for you to finally start that project you've always wanted to do. So how to get back on your feet? Okay, so something didn't work out. All right. Now, look at it as an opportunity for you to maybe do that thing that you could have always done if you never had this particular if you never had that other project you were doing. So perhaps you can always start a new project. So, and that is always something exciting, or can be another chapter in your journey. Mend the relationship as well. Often, our biggest failures often involve the most important people in our lives, maybe our families, our friends, or our bosses, our teammates. But there's always a possibility to mend the relationship. So perhaps that could involve saying how sorry you were for what happened, by maybe giving the other person a sorry gift. Maybe you can send the other person something meaningful to them, just to say how sorry you were about the mistake you made. Be wise enough to preserve yourself as well, because there are people out there who don't always have the best intentions, and we should also be wise enough not to trust anyone. Now, these are the last points about how to get back on your feet. All right. Now, okay. Okay, now you are the writer of your life, not other people. I think I already mentioned this before. 12, every day is an opportunity to do better. I also mentioned that. 13, how to get back on your feet. I think it's really helpful to do journal writing. That really helps process feelings, really helps you process what you do. Talk to people, cheer yourself up, be your number one cheerleader, and make sure that you learn the lesson every time you fail, so that you won't repeat the same mistake twice. This is another thing that I learned from my dad again. He's actually around here somewhere in this area that I'm in right now. Now, yes, make sure that you learn the lesson every time you fail, so that you won't repeat the same mistake twice. If there's one lesson that I want to emphasize more than anything in this talk, it would be this. Because based from my personal experience, I do also have a tendency to repeat my mistakes, and I sometimes don't also learn the lesson the first time. But I've already changed that, because processing yourself helps. So here is a matrix of how to know what are the mistakes that you often do and what to do in order to overcome them. Now, this is going to be really short because the time is almost up. But okay, how to get back on your feet, processing yourself on unsuccessful experiences that you've had, and what lessons should you have learned, so that you won't repeat the same lesson twice. Now, a useful thing to do is to write down what was that unsuccessful experience. Did too many things at the same time. What technically happened? Didn't have focus, juggled my master's work and Lambo was compromised and realigned. So that's what happened. Lambo is still Lambo is still there, but we are just having a new direction right now. Now, okay, now that's what happened. What was the lesson that I learned? Only do two things at a time, perhaps, masters and work. Don't really do too many things at the same time. So this is just an example. But it's important to be really honest, of course, with yourself when it comes to these things, because how can you learn the biggest lessons if you are in denial about your experiences? So this is the matrix that a person can use whenever they are reflecting on their mistakes. So make sure that you learn the lesson every time you fail, so that you won't repeat the same mistake twice. Okay, so the rest of the slides are inspirational words already from, we have here from a well-known phrase from Thomas Edison. I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that won't work. Failure is an event, never a person. Failure is only the opportunity to begin again more intelligently. You can't have success without failure. Keep trying, keep failing, and soon you'll find true success. This is from Randon Bronze, the Chief Learning Officer of Express Coaching. I think that's all really. Now here are the sources of my talk. Just going to browse through that, and okay, that will be all for today. We only really have 5 minutes for question and answer, so that is a marathon, not a sprint. I'm going to switch back to the webcam now. All right. Okay, so I hope that was fruitful for all of the viewers. Now at this point, we're opening the floor for questions for about 5 minutes, really, or 4 minutes technically. I actually have access to the chat, but right now I can't really see any of the questions. If anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask, just write them down here in the chat box, and I'll of course answer them. Okay. I'm just looking over the chat box. If ever people have questions. I don't think anyone is giving any questions as of now. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not really sure if my chat is working fine. But yeah, I'm just going. We only have about 3 or 2 minutes left for the webinar. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. And the journey is different for each person, but the important thing is that we keep on continuing on. We start over because just like what I said, we are really the authors of our stories. Yeah. No, I don't think anyone is there anymore. I mean, of course there are. I see 5 people online. Hey. Okay, there is one question. Sorry. Okay, I really think that my chat is not working that well. I'm just going to browse through the desktop, because I'm going to browse through the desktop going to browse through this talk through my desktop, because I can't exactly see some of the comments anymore. Just for a moment. Okay. Oh my gosh, so sorry. Exactly. I just saw some of the comments. Okay, I just saw the points here. Thank you for your points. Flo from Switzerland, activism, baking apple cakes with my, wow, that's awesome, with my grandma. Hello, Florian. Courtney, South Africa Youth and Sustainable Development. Okay, hi, Courtney. Yes, see it, very true, and completely relate. Awesome. Now, okay, hello, Florian. You had a question. How do you separate failure from person for yourself? Okay. How do you separate failure from person? Does that this I wanted to clarify if what you meant is it how do you separate your failure from yourself? I'm just going to answer the question that way. All right. So for me, now to for me, how do you separate what you did from who you are? I believe that was your question. Now to answer that, I think that everyone always has a tendency to do good, of course, and also to do bad. Being human beings, we always have that light and dark in us. Sounds really pop culture, light and dark, but to make it realistic, sometimes we are good. We do have our moments of kindness, of compassion, but we also have our moments of cruelty to others, or maybe of there are moments when we hate, and there are moments when we fail, we become lazy. So how do you separate those from who you are? Who are we really with regards to that? Well, my answer would be all of those are actually part of who you are. The kindness, the cruelty, the hate. I think everything about that is part of who you are, but the important thing is that you we don't really we decide today. I think the important thing is that we decide today that today I am not that person anymore. Today I am the kinder version of sorry, the kinder something fell. Today I am the kinder version of myself. Today I am the hardworking person that I am. This is who I am. And I think that is how we separate failure from who we are. We are the ones who decide who we are, not others, only us. Really. That's how I see it. I hope that makes sense. Okay, thank you very much, Florian. Now, I believe that is all for today. It's already time. I think we are even extending about 2 minutes already. So, okay, thank you very much for watching, everyone, and keep on tuning into Global Changemakers webinar. If you want to learn more skills in how to go about with your challenge or with your journeys in change making. Now, yes, that journey is a marathon. It's not a sprint. Don't be in a hurry to do everything right now because it is a it's a walk. It's like a huge run. You know, you're going to go through so many things, and it's a great journey. Okay, so that's all for today, everyone. Thank you for watching. Au revoir.